There's something that truly intelligent people do every day, and almost no one notices, not because it's complex, but because it's silent. In the first few seconds of any situation, while most rush to give their opinion, react, or take a stand, they do something that seems too simple to be valuable. They stop. This pause isn't hesitation, it's mastery. The human brain has been trained to respond quickly because for thousands of years, reacting quickly meant surviving. But today, reacting quickly usually means making mistakes quickly. Intelligent people have understood this intuitively. They know that the first response is rarely the best. They know that the first emotion often lies. And they know that the initial impulse almost never reveals the whole picture. There is immense discomfort in this behavior. Remaining silent when everyone is talking creates tension. Not responding immediately creates the feeling of missing out. The mind begins to press with internal questions. What if I'm wrong? What if they think I don't know? What if I lose control of the situation? Most people succumb to this pressure. Intelligent people don't. They endure this discomfort because they know it protects something far more valuable: clarity. While others expend energy defending flimsy opinions, they observe patterns. While many try to win arguments, they try to understand what is really happening beneath the surface. This choice changes everything. It changes decisions. It changes relationships. It changes how the brain organizes information. But here, a curious conflict arises. The more someone practices this strategic silence, the less they resemble the stereotype of intelligence that society sells. They speak less, they react less, they expose themselves less, and this makes many people confuse intelligence with weakness. The question is why this behavior, so powerful, is so rare, and what exactly happens in the mind of someone who manages to sustain this pause when everyone around them is losing control. This is what begins to separate those who only seem intelligent from those who truly are. After the pause comes something even more difficult. Intelligent people begin to question their own thinking, not in an academic way, but in the midst of real life. At work, when they receive hurtful feedback. At home, after an argument that seemed unnecessary. In traffic, when irritation arises before they even realize it. Instead of automatically defending what they felt or thought, they ask themselves a silent question. Why did this affect me this way? What am I trying to protect here? This attitude completely changes the experience of being human. Imagine someone arriving home tired, hearing a simple criticism, and experiencing a disproportionate reaction. Most people respond automatically and then regret it. Intelligent people perceive the discomfort and turn their attention inward. Not to blame themselves, but to understand. They recognize that not every emotion is an enemy and not every thought is true. This ability creates space between stimulus and response. It is in this space that emotional intelligence truly begins to form. This doesn't make life easier at first. Questioning one's own mind requires courage. It requires admitting that some certainties were merely old defenses, that some reactions stemmed from fear, not reason. But over time, something changes. The person begins to feel more in control of themselves, less a hostage to impulses, more present in conversations, decisions, and even mistakes. Men and women who develop this habit report something curious. They make fewer mistakes, not because they have become perfect, but because they have learned to listen to themselves before acting. There's a sense of belonging in that. The feeling that you don't need to compete all the time or prove your worth with every answer. This awareness brings lightness and also responsibility, because when you understand your patterns, you can no longer pretend you don't see them, and that prepares the ground for something even deeper, the moment when the mind learns to live with doubt without panicking. That's exactly when everything starts to change. There comes a point when questioning one's own mind ceases to be uncomfortable and becomes unsettling. It's when a person realizes that not every doubt needs to be resolved immediately. Intelligent people develop a different relationship with uncertainty. While many feel anxiety when they don't have clear answers, they learn to remain in this state without panicking. The inner silence begins to function as a space for organization, not as a void.
It is in this interval that the brain connects ideas that previously seemed loose. But why do most people flee from this state as if it were a threat? Modern life trains us to do the opposite. Constant stimulation, quick answers, ready-made opinions. Faced with this, tolerating doubt seems unproductive. But it is precisely in this seemingly lost time that better decisions begin to form. Think of someone facing an important choice, changing careers, ending a relationship, accepting a proposal. Many decide quickly to alleviate the anxiety of not knowing. Intelligent people endure this tension for longer. They let the question mature. The curious thing is that the less haste there is, the clearer the answers become. What happens when you stop running away from discomfort and start listening to it? This behavior creates an unexpected effect. The mind slows down, but perception expands. Details previously ignored gain weight. Contradictions become visible. Intuitions arise effortlessly. It's as if the brain enters a deeper processing mode. Those who live this way often seem distant or overly introspective to others, but internally there is intense activity, a silent work that doesn't appear on social media or in the quick conversations of everyday life. How many wrong decisions could be avoided if more people trusted this process? Over time, this skill changes the relationship to error. Making mistakes ceases to be an attack on personal worth and becomes information. Each failure reveals something that was not yet clear. This reduces the fear of trying and increases the quality of future choices. It's not about being indecisive, it's about choosing consciously. And when someone learns to sustain doubt without getting lost in it, something transforms. The mind gains depth, anxiety loses power, and a clarity emerges that doesn't come from haste, but from the courage to wait. The question now is what happens when this way of thinking begins to shape emotions and behaviors in daily life. Over time, this way of thinking begins to appear in small, everyday choices, not in grand speeches, but in almost invisible attitudes. An intelligent person tends to react less to simple provocations. In a tense meeting, while everyone competes to speak, they observe who is truly insecure and who speaks only to fill space. At home, faced with a recurring conflict, they notice patterns that have been repeating for years and understand that the current discussion didn't start today. This perspective changes the dynamic. Interestingly, research shows
In behavioral psychology shows that people who take conscious pauses before responding reduce impulsive decisions by up to 40% in high-pressure environments. Fewer errors, not because they are colder, but because they are more present. There's a common story among people who develop this self-control. Many have regretted past reactions that cost them relationships, opportunities, or peace of mind. At some point, something broke that cycle. It wasn't extreme willpower, but perception. They understood that emotion doesn't need to be obeyed the instant it arises. This understanding creates something rare today: emotional stability. And stability isn't the absence of feelings, it's the ability to navigate them without losing your balance. How many situations in your life would have been different if you had waited a few more seconds? A little discussed fact reinforces this. Studies on decision-making show that the emotional brain reacts in milliseconds, while the cortex responsible for conscious decisions needs more time to act. Intelligent people have learned to give the brain this time. They don't eliminate emotion, but they prevent it from ruling alone. The effect is cumulative. Fewer unnecessary conflicts, more clarity in choices, less mental strain over the years. This practice also changes how these people are perceived. Often they seem too calm in chaotic situations. Some mistake this for indifference. In reality, it's situational awareness. They know that not every battle deserves energy, and that reacting is not synonymous with acting. This behavior builds a silent advantage. While others become emotionally exhausted, they preserve focus and mental health. And this prepares the ground for the final stage, the moment when this intelligence ceases to be merely internal and begins to influence everything around them. Ultimately, what only intelligent people do is not a secret trick or a rare talent.
It's a daily choice. Along this path, we've seen that it all begins with a pause, continues with internal questioning, matures through living with doubt, and transforms into emotional self-control. Now, all these pieces fit together. Intelligent people don't live reacting to the world. They live responding to it consciously. They understand that not every thought deserves immediate attention, that not every emotion needs to become action, and that not every situation demands an immediate response. This way of living resolves a silent conflict that many carry, the feeling of always being emotionally behind, always regretting what you said, always trying to fix something that slipped out in the heat of the moment. When you learn to slow down internally, the external world loses some of its power over you. Decisions become more aligned with who you are, relationships become clearer, mistakes cease to be sources of shame and become signs of adjustment, not because you've become cold or distant, but because you've become present. Perhaps you recognized yourself in parts of this script. Perhaps you remembered situations where you reacted too quickly, or moments when silence would have changed everything. This is not weakness, it is awareness being born. Real intelligence doesn't shout, doesn't show off, and doesn't need to win arguments. It builds, preserves, and chooses. And when this pattern becomes a habit, something changes profoundly. You stop living in defense mode and start living in leadership mode. If this content resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel to continue exploring this type of reflection. Like this video so it reaches more people who also need to hear this. And if you'd like, share any questions or personal situations you're experiencing in the comments. You can do so anonymously. This space is for sharing, not judgment. Reading these stories helps create even more human and relevant content. Thank you for staying until the end. Your attention is valuable. See you in the next video.